Hello and welcome to Fox in Focus. I'm Rick Folbaum. Helicopters like this have changed the news business. Now, the second a story breaks, helicopters are right in the middle of the action, and we're watching it live as it happens. Over the next hour, we'll show you some of the most amazing footage ever captured by news choppers, and you'll meet some of the people who have brought you those pictures every day. First up, a former cop, now on air patrol for KTLA Los Angeles. It's the police chase capital of the world, and Rod Bernson's got it covered.
Light is out, the lights are out on the bus. The bus is now careening into the intersection. This guy is out of control. Rod Bernson is LA's king of the car chase. A former cop, now award-winning reporter, Bernson flies the skies looking for the modern-day version of cowboys and Indians.
We were all raised on drama. Even on the radio, they had a chase. Translate that into real life, where people's lives are at risk. That's real. It's happening.
This is absolutely insane. You see these people driving down the curb. You know damn well 99.9% of the time they're going to get caught one way or the other. What are they thinking?
So the deputy will continue their eyes spinning down. It's the divider. Apparently no at this point. Maybe the car was involved in that. No other car.
Each time a chase takes place, news directors like Wald have a decision to make. Take it live or ignore it.
We made the decision to go on with other news, reminding our viewers that we'll come back to it anytime something changes. The station in town that decided to stay with the static shot of the car, parked on a freeway, surrounded by police, did gangbuster ratings.
Guns out the window. The gun's pointed out the driver's window.
The last long-distance pursuit that we did, we had 1 million people that were watching, which is probably 3 or 4 times greater than we would normally have at that particular hour of the day. 1 million people were watching.
Then there was the ratings granddaddy of them all, the slow-speed chase of O.J. Simpson, which gave the nation a taste for this L.A. phenomenon. Jeff Baugh of radio station KFWB was overhead for it all.
It was kind of like Elvis sightings, for lack of a better term. Yeah, we saw him here, we saw him there. People kind of figured out that he was going home, and everybody knew what that was, and it was amazing to see this entourage, if you will, of police cars behind that white Bronco, and every time they went under an overpass, every overpass was covered.
But while the chases on the freeway are often dangerous, there are also concerns about traffic in the air, especially when the action moves off the freeway and into the neighborhoods.
You've got to imagine this armada of maybe a dozen helicopters, including law enforcement and media. We're going, say, this way, and then all of a sudden, everybody stops and regroups and has to go that way.
And we're over Long Beach. Pilots have a special frequency set aside. Since the pilots are talking to each other, we haven't had an incident. Lots and lots of close calls. A lot of close calls. Way too close for comfort. But that's part of the cost of doing the job from the air.
Bus is backing up on the curb, across the grass, into a home.
Look at the struggle to get him handcuffed. It's not like on television, folks. If somebody doesn't want to be handcuffed, it's extremely difficult to do.
While chases have their elements of danger,
See shots fired, shots being fired right now. They're killing the suspect.
those that cover them see themselves as watchdogs.
When the police officers do their job in a professional manner, that's real obvious to me. If they slip over the line and they start beating a suspect, that's not police work.
Move over it, the other side, they're beating him.
Chases are big ratings boosters, but law enforcement has concerns.
The tragedy at the end of a pursuit should be anticipated, and I think it's rather disingenuous sometimes for stations to broadcast something live and then immediately go on the air and apologize.
Okay, suspect is in custody. They're putting the handcuffs on the suspect right now.
There were hundreds of news directors around the country that laughed at Los Angeles. LA became this, this pursuit town. It was like the Wild West out there. And nobody's laughing anymore because the helicopter's time has come. It will always be a very important tool.
There he goes. Oh, it's turned over. The truck just crashed.
Objections aside, airborne news coverage is here to stay. Helicopter cameras have, at times, been witness to tragedy. But there are no apologies for the ratings chases generate, building audience and identity for local TV. These kind of numbers are hard to argue. In Los Angeles, Tracy Gallagher, Fox News.
The danger in covering a high-speed police pursuit from the air comes from other helicopters, all trying to get the same shot. When we come back, a far more frightening threat: gunfire from the ground. One of the most sensational shootouts in LA history, caught on tape, and you'll see it when we come right back.
He's shooting at the car.
I can hear bullets over the air.
Welcome back to our Fox News special, Eye in the Sky. I'm Rick Folbaum. Flying a news helicopter like this takes total concentration. You've got to have one eye on the news event you're covering and the other on other news choppers that are circling you. But what happens when a threat comes from the ground? Here's William Lajeunesse with a chilling story.
There has been a shooting at Santana High School. As we look at live pictures.
From fires to school shootings to river rescues.
30 feet, 20 feet, 10 feet, 5 feet. Hey, he got him! He's got him! Oh, he let go. The pararescue man has let go. He couldn't hang on.
Covering the news from a chopper can be dangerous business.
Suspect is firing at officers at this point.
It was the morning of February 28, 1997, when the fleet of helicopters that cover Los Angeles had just completed their morning rounds of traffic jams and news reports when a call came over the scanner that was anything but routine. It was a story that would bring urban terror into American living rooms as never before.
He's shooting at the car.
Jeff Ball was one of the first reporters in the air.
There was so much movement, it was really quite hard, to be honest with you, as a reporter, to focus on something because there was so many things happening.
He's shooting again here.
Continuing to fire.
Two men, heavily armed with automatic weapons, robbed a North Hollywood bank. They were spotted by a police patrol unit, and a seemingly endless shootout began. Before the gunmen were taken down, 10 officers, 3 civilians were caught in the crossfire.
They were still shooting at him. I can hear bullets over the air. I felt helpless because, we couldn't get anybody to him. I mean, here the firing hasn't stopped, and the officer is on the ground screaming for help.
Oh, he's approaching a police car.
As gunmen and police exchanged fire, the infamous yellow tape went up. News director Jeff Wald.
The first thing the police seem to do, law enforcement seems to do, is put up yellow tape to keep the media at a safe distance.
But for Fox 11's Rod Burnson, once a cop himself, the chopper was the answer to making sure the story was told.
The problem between cops and reporters is they frankly don't like each other. They can throw up yellow tape, but we'll come up over the top of it.
Non-stop coverage from choppers high overhead. Then, 5 hours after the fact, Police Chief Willie Williams held his first briefing.
Uniformed patrol officers initially responded. The first officers reported that they saw personnel with high-powered weapons in the bank.
Officer Nick Surface was one of the first cops on the scene.
The guy in the bank came out firing. We moved around, kept trying to relocate so we could engage this guy.
Are they not using those cars as shields, Rob?
Exactly. And the bullet-riddled cars and walls of the bank told the story.
Now, if that helicopter hadn't been there, and there was just cameras on the ground, you would have never seen the scope of that.
Many times we're kept back, and we can't bring those pictures to the public. The helicopter allows us to bring those pictures.
A situation for which Deputy Chief David Gascon explains the LAPD is grateful.
There could never be any accusations that the police officers were heavy-handed or, too heavily armed. I mean, the public saw what we've been talking about for years and years, and certainly demonstrated to the public the seriousness of the incident, the dangers facing the police officers, the extreme urgency of the situation.
Now, the police officers are apparently approaching the suspect with guns drawn, again, to make sure that the suspect is disabled.
For the people who use the chopper to cover the news, it is more than a flying machine. It takes the viewer right to the scene so they can see the news actually happen for themselves.
Do you have other information that perhaps more officers were wounded than the one we're hearing about?
You can sit at home and you can say, yeah, they did a good job. Or, sure, I understand what the chief is saying there. That would have been a problem. Or you can say, that guy's lying.
In Los Angeles, William LaJeunesse, Fox News.
When we come back, a Dallas newscopter follows a story and winds up making news itself. And then one of the most dramatic examples of mob violence ever caught on tape. Fox in Focus returns after a short break.
Come to me. Come to me.
Welcome back. TV news helicopters don't have to wait behind police barricades when a story is in progress. And sometimes that unlimited access isn't welcomed by authorities. Here's Mike Tobin with that story from Dallas, Texas.
Whether covering traffic, getting shots of scenery, or hovering over breaking news, viewers in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex have learned to depend on the images brought into their homes by KDFW's Sky 4 helicopter. KDFW News Director Maria Bars.
It's completely changed the way that news is covered.
Sky 4 never had as much impact as it did back in June of '96 when coverage of the news became the news. Veteran journalist Scott Wallace was at the controls.
We were out looking for a kidnapping suspect.
Our helicopter was flying with the police helicopter. And then at some point they spotted the guy running across the street and into some woods.
As Wallace watched from the chopper, Senior Corporal Stephen O'Brien of the Dallas Police Force caught up with suspect Roy Trujillo Jr.
Actually, when it happened, we weren't on the live pictures, but we had the tape of it, and it caught everybody by surprise, including the helicopter pilot, who was like, "Oh my goodness," you know, he's getting over the radio to the producer, you know, to come back to him.
Come to me. Come to me.
While they were waiting to go live, the story is developing.
We see the puff of smoke from the gun. The suspect goes down after he's shot. The police officer puts the handcuffs on him. Then he looks around. Then he takes the gun and he starts beating on the suspect.
That's a live picture from Sky 4 right there.
After that, Channel 4 comes to Wallace and the live pictures.
As you can see, a police officer has just stopped the suspect.
We didn't catch the actual start of it on live, but we had it on tape, and so almost instantly we turned the tape around.
The scene of Corporal O'Brien beating the handcuffed, wounded suspect was played and replayed for the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex.
And then you're left with a situation, okay, what happens now? What do you do now? And what does it mean? And for us at that time, it was, you know, what happens to the police officer, what happens to the suspect.
O'Brien was fired almost immediately. However, in later years, he would challenge his firing in court. An administrative law judge gave him his job back with back pay. He is still on the Dallas Police Force. The grand jury did not charge Roy Trujillo Jr. with kidnapping, but in a bizarre twist of fate, in 1999 he was murdered, shot and stabbed to death in a town called Pleasant Grove. Trujillo left behind a troubled life, his image caught by the chopper cam on Sky 4, leaving a mark on police operations in Dallas.
But you see now, police officers will touch somebody else at a scene, like after a car chase or after some other event where the adrenaline's just rushing, and they'll touch them, and even in some cases, you know, they'll point up and, you know, remind the other officer there that their helicopter's flying around.
22 and 28 are assisting. Now we hear them on the scanner traffic saying, "Oh, watch out, the news media are here with their cameras and their helicopters."
They know there's an eye in the sky, bringing the pictures live into homes so the public can police the police. In Dallas, Mike Tobin, Fox News.
Back in 1992, during the infamous LA riots, TV news helicopters revealed a far different story. A man being beaten to death by street thugs, and police were nowhere to be found.
April 30th, 1992, the beginning of 4 days of rioting that resulted in 58 deaths, hundreds of injuries, and $1 billion in damage. 4 city cops are cleared in the beating of Rodney King. and years of pent-up anger lead to urban explosion. Ground zero right here, the corner of Florence and Normandy. Reginald Denny, a white truck driver, rolled into this intersection crowded with people milling about. Tensions were mounting. LA's news media were beginning to get word of trouble. It was the beginning. Pictures from cameras on the ground were not yet available, but the story was already unfolding in the nation's living rooms.
Here's the situation from South Central. Drivers of automobiles and trucks that enter this area can expect to...
Chopper reporter Bob Turr was flying for LA's Channel 13.
And there's no police presence down here. They will not enter the area.
They looted a liquor store, a gas station, and then things became very violent. Right. And it was at that point, with a flip of the switch, we were on the air live.
Tell LAPD to shut Florence Boulevard down and Normandy because people are still driving through here.
That man was lobotomized on national television.
He's moving. He's a lot of blood gushing from the man's head.
The LAPD always responded to the scene, always saved the day. It was like the cavalry showing up. Here, they didn't show up, and I couldn't believe it. I was watching my city explode in violence and in flames.
The frustration level for Turr and others in the air that night was almost unbearable. Rod Burnson from Fox station KTTV.
The first 45 minutes, I was astonished. The anchors on the desk kept asking me, well, where are the police? And I kept responding, gee, I just don't know.
Look at this guy with a big TV set over his shoulder, just walking out of here nonchalantly.
The former cop and veteran reporter, Burnson, used his instincts to find the cops 10 miles from Ground Zero, but was only able to do it from the air.
Well, we found the LAPD, and it looks like they're holding themselves hostage here at 58th and Van Ness. There was no response by the LAPD.
Someone standing there taking a picture.
What got conveyed to the public was ineffective law enforcement.
Man laying on the street, but nobody's helping him.
Those pictures, I think, were problematic in a number of different ways. But on the other side of the coin, we have to recognize it did in fact occur. It was news. It was newsworthy.
They're picking his pockets now.
While the airborne reporters struggled to report what they saw, their bosses watched on the ground. Jeff Wald was Bob Turr's news director.
Bob may have crossed the line, but I think it was for good reason that he was pleading for help, because we had given every indication that this city was prepared for any eventuality, and it turned out that we were not.
Stories were unfolding on the ground as well.
Now I see smoke. Something, can't tell. Oh, God! No! No, God, no! Okay! That's wild! Right? Okay!
Can we all get along? Can we get along? Can we stop making it horrible for the older people and the kids?
But few of those pictures were live, providing little perspective.
The helicopter added the aerial perspective of really the enormity of what was taking place in our city.
This is our job, and we're going to stick with it.
It brought the pictures. It showed exactly the scope and how widespread the destruction was, how widespread the damage was, how widespread the vandalism was, how completely out of control it was.
In Los Angeles, John Dupree, Fox News.
Still to come in this Fox News special report.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
When a live event turns violent, who decides to stay on the air or pull the plug?
Unfortunate things have taken place that you just can't anticipate.
Just how dangerous are helicopters? You'll meet a man who crashed and lived to talk about it.
You can hear a crushing sound when we hit the water. The windshield of the helicopter either broke or popped off as soon as we hit, and the water came rushing in over me, over my head, and over my face.
Then, find out what it's like to fly the fastest newscopter up there. Eye in the Sky continues after this break for the latest news headlines. Welcome back to our Fox in Focus Eye in the Sky special report. I'm Rick Folbaum. Because of the helicopter, we've come to expect our news live as it happens. But sometimes live events can turn violent. Does the television station stay with the coverage or cut away to something else? Fox senior correspondent Eric Shawn now with the story of the men and women who must make that deadly decision.
Another police pursuit ends in a standoff, captured by the unblinking eye of a TV newscopter. But this one turns ugly.
Oh, don't do that! Don't do that!
And millions of viewers become eyewitnesses to a shooting.
As soon as you go live, you surrender any editorial control you have over the pictures.
But the popularity of the modern newscopter means more of those live pictures make their way into America's living rooms every day.
What they will probably do is handcuff him, even if he is wounded.
Los Angeles, a hijacked bus involved in a high-speed pursuit slams into the side of a minivan. The driver is killed instantly.
He's still not giving up.
Phoenix, Arizona, another live police chase. The suspect's car reverses direction, dodges oncoming traffic, and nearly flips over on a freeway overpass.
He just really seems to be playing with the police officers.
New York City, a disturbed young man keeps officers at bay for several tense hours as he threatens to jump from the Brooklyn Bridge. He's eventually talked down, but had he jumped, how would the local stations have reacted?
Thing is over. They have him. Depends on the story. I mean, I don't think you can sit here right now and say the line exists at this particular point.
The chase is on.
Competitively, if you see other stations with something on the air and you don't have it on the air, that line's going to get pushed a lot more.
It's the danger in any situation of live coverage of any kind of an event.
There's too many fires to count.
Where unfortunate things have taken place that you just can't anticipate.
When those things take a turn for the worse,
He's out of control.
It's the news director's job to decide what the viewers at home are going to see.
Sometimes they have a better view than they don't have to be involved like I do, looking for other aircraft, talking to air traffic control.
But it's not an easy call to make. The pressure to remain on the air is tremendous.
The gun's pointed out the driver's window.
It plays to everyone's voyeuristic sensibilities.
This is the longest one I've ever been on.
But that's really not the fault of the helicopter. That may be more a fault of the pressures that news directors face in keeping an audience and keeping ratings.
After all, in the white-hot competition for viewers, a station that leaves a dramatic live event in progress often watches its audience leave too.
You watch the ratings the next morning go from that station to the next with no viewer loyalty, really, because they're interested in the story and the pictures.
The current policy on covering live news events was hammered out after this notorious incident in May of 1998.
Looking at the live picture.
40-year-old Daniel Jones held police at bay on a Los Angeles freeway as a live audience at home watched his every move.
The call went out as a person holding literally 2 major freeways hostage at rush hour. And we watched as this man unfurled a banner about HMOs. And we figured that, all right, he got his point across, he got his coverage, and everything's going to be fine.
But Jones raised the stakes. He set fire to his car with his dog trapped inside.
Oh, his car's just caught fire.
And then we realized we have a different story than just somebody making a statement.
Suddenly, he produced a shotgun. And what began as just another freeway chase now became a public suicide.
Every indication that I had as I was watching those live pictures come in was that this man really didn't want to commit suicide until we finally saw, as time came near, him going after a gun that nobody had noticed in the back of the truck. I regret that those pictures were brought into the living rooms of Los Angeles viewers, and every station in town had it.
The sound of that single violent act echoed in newsrooms across the country.
It forced a lot of stations, especially us, that really rely on the helicopters to be aggressive news-gathering resources to really say, okay, hold on, now what are we going to do if we get in this situation?
Now, the news director's policy is one of caution.
If we tell them that something looks like something violent may happen, then they get their guard up.
While it's happening live and it is an escalated situation, he'll be standing right there on the radio. You're too tight, or, get tighter.
Our operating rule is that you either do not show that shot if there's somebody, for instance, with a gun to their head, or we're not on the air.
Even in an age when technology allows us to see nearly anything live, as it happens, it's still a human being who decides when it's news and when it's not.
It's a very important tool, but we have to be very careful about how we use it because it could be easily abused.
In New York, Eric Shawn, Fox News.
Coming up, the story no helicopter pilot wants to see on television. Stick with us.
You can hear a crushing sound when we hit the water. The windshield of the helicopter either broke or popped off as soon as we hit, and the water came rushing in over me, over my head, and over my face.
David Lee Miller with a Bible story.
Over the scene in minutes.
You're looking at a live picture right now.
Equipped with a TV studio full of the latest camera gear, these eyes in the sky can drop viewers into the heart of the action.
Barely missed that pedestrian right there.
But all this access comes with a price.
Can it be unsafe? I wish not to say that, but it can be.
For pilots and reporters involved in electronic news gathering, or ENG, chasing the story can be a dangerous occupation.
Helicopters are inherently unstable, so you have to manipulate the controls at all the time. Unlike an airplane where you can trim an airplane up and you can let go of the controls and it'll basically fly itself, helicopter you cannot do that.
Aircraft in general are not dangerous. They're just very unforgiving when there is a problem.
Unforgiving and sometimes deadly.
Overall, the ENG safety record has been good. Some years have been better than others. Last year was a bad year. There were 5 ENG accidents.
Like last November's tragic crash in Houston. A news chopper from KRIV-TV fell from the sky, bursting into flames on impact and killing the pilot.
There is an element of risk in anything that we do in life, and flying is no different than that. What we have to do is measure the risk versus the reward.
Measuring the risk is something Kai Simonson does almost every day.
All right, we're all set.
As WNYW's Fox 5 chopper reporter, Kai and his pilot, Michael Jacobson, take to the air.
Chopper 5 lifting off the ramp here.
To bring New Yorkers the latest news on the ground.
It is gorgeous. Visibility is nice today. You can actually, if I show you, come out a little bit here on Route 80, you can see off in the distance here. We have just about unlimited visibility right now, so you're right, it is gorgeous. But things are not so gorgeous down here on Route 80 itself. New York City is a very busy place for fires, accidents, all kinds of things.
Good morning and welcome back. We have some breaking news right now. We're going to check in with Kai Simonson. He is over Bound Brook, New Jersey, where our house is on fire, and I hear some people are being rescued. What's the situation there, Kai?
When you get to a major event, suppose it's a plane crash or something else, a major fire, then you're dealing with an intense situation sometimes because you have as many as 6 or 7 other news helicopters all on the scene at the same time.
To minimize the dangers, pilots must be on the ball.
We have a standard unwritten rule between all the news helicopters to always be hovering at least 2,000 feet above the ground. So if we do have that situation where we have an emergency, we have plenty of altitude to make a safe landing and keep us safe and the people on the ground safe.
Roger, hold position, chopper 5.
Emergency landings in the densely packed pavements of New York City are rarely an option.
You have to be really picky about that in this area because the city's so large that there's a lot of wires, and wires are very dangerous and detrimental to a helicopter making a landing. 90% of the time we're going to go to the water.
That's exactly what happened on a chilly evening in December 1998. A reporter for WNBC at the time, Kai and his pilot were heading out to New Jersey to cover a blackout when they heard a large thump from the rear of the chopper.
I asked the pilot, what happened, and he wasn't really sure what had happened. About 60 seconds later, I heard him shouting, "Mayday, Mayday, we're in trouble." And at that point, the helicopter turned to the right and started going, and we basically did a 180 back toward New York City. He was turning back to go back toward the Passaic River.
Hear the sputter of the engine.
Sparks were flying everywhere. Okay, came in real low. It come this way, but it had to head for the water. So what he did, he turned and headed for the water, and he crashed.
You can hear a crushing sound when we hit the water. The windshield of the helicopter either broke or popped off as soon as we hit, and the water came rushing in over me, over my head, and over my face.
Badly shaken and bruised, both men were pulled from the chilly waters.
They say your life flashes in front of your eyes when you're about to die, or when you have a near-death experience. That didn't happen for me, and I thought more about my future. I didn't really think about my past, because my future was what I was going to be robbed of if I died in that crash.
6:35 right now. What we're looking at, look at Kai. Look at this.
Despite his brother with death, Kai is still up in the air, reporting on the morning's news.
I think about, what if we had to make an emergency landing? What if, history repeats itself and I wind up in another aircraft accident? But you know what? My philosophy is, this is what I do for a living. I have the greatest job in the world, really.
David Lee Miller, Fox News.
What are the toughest stories to cover? And how does a pilot make sure a helicopter accident doesn't lead the news at 11? We'll have some surprising answers when Eye in the Sky continues.
The second victim is now online. As you can see, the county fire paramedic is in a precarious position.
In big cities like Los Angeles or New York, it's not unusual to see 8 or 10 helicopters covering any given story. The men and women who fly them are a highly trained select group. Catherine Herridge has their story.
If there's a shooting, every helicopter's at the shooting. If there's a fire, every helicopter's at the fire.
Today, there are approximately 200 qualified news chopper pilots working in the United States.
Stay with them.
And demand live news coverage keeps them airborne for most of the broadcast day. Scott Wallace is the president of the National Broadcast Pilots Association.
We are flying more aircraft, more hours, and the experience level of the pilots is going on in the industry.
Though many senior pilots are retiring, teams are adding more helicopter coverage to their newscasts.
We're getting a new breed of pilots in, and they just don't have the kind of experience levels that we're used to.
And in this job, it's experience that counts.
Pilots have to have the eyes in the back of their head opened up too. You got looking behind you, right of you, and to the left of you, above you and below.
They have to deal with air traffic controllers, other aircraft in the airspace, and they also have to deal with me screaming at them, trying to tell them I got to go on the air in 30 seconds.
Sometimes it's the pilots themselves doing the live news reports and flying the helicopter at the same time.
The second victim is now on the line. They could be in trouble here. There's a second paramedic on the skid.
There come times, like on some of these police chases, when we're flying along, and I've got to tell the anchorman that I can't talk right now. I have to talk to air traffic control. I have to talk to the other pilots in the chase or something like that.
It's a high-reward, high-wire act that comes with its own brand of stress. Good communication is the key to survival.
This is that group that walks south on Figueroa.
We have to get to where we trust each other, we communicate with each other, and we have a gentleman's agreement. Whoever gets there first gets to pick where they want to be, high or low, farther away, or in what direction they want to circle and things like that.
They all give each other tips. Hey, something going on the backside. Or if there's a stakeout, somebody will watch the backside and somebody will watch the front side.
But each pilot reacts differently to what they see when they arrive on scene.
I think loss of life stories are for me. Fires, plane crashes, automobile accidents.
One particular story comes to mind. A woman, for whatever reason, jumped off the Frog's Neck Bridge and was killed. I felt badly because here I am talking about the traffic, and really that's not what's important. What's important is the fact that someone is dead.
I remember down on Laguna Beach seeing a whole hilltop row of homes in flames, and looked off just to the right, and there was another hilltop, and I knew that they wouldn't be able to stop it. I knew that all those people's homes were going to be destroyed.
Those flames are just leaping into the sky.
Watching all of these people's homes burn, it was just a difficult thing.
It's the love of the job and a strong belief in what they're doing that keeps them going.
I devoutly believe in the First Amendment and that the public does have a right to know.
And there's the knowledge that even though helicopters can cover some events better than anything else, they've still got plenty of competition from the ground.
Did you have anything to do with the disappearance of Chandra Levy?
There's no substitute for a good reporter with bad shoes. News helicopters will never substitute that.
In New York, Catherine Herridge, Fox News.
So, what's it like to fly in one of these machines? Well, fasten your seatbelt, because we got your ride in one of the fastest birds in the sky. That story's coming up.
The excitement is we can get in, we can get a news story, and the people on the ground don't even know we're there.
Hey!
Welcome back. Helicopters are marvels of engineering, and just like any other high-tech device in our lives, they're constantly changing. Alicia Acuna now with a look at the next generation, Eye in the Sky.
It's a helicopter race almost every day.
Getting to the scene first on a big news story is crucial for television stations to be competitive. And this is the latest, fastest tool in the race for ratings.
We have speed, safety, and clarity, yes.
The Bell 407 News Chopper. This is one of less than a dozen being used to chase down news events in the country. Denver news pilot Rich Westra.
It's built with composite materials. It's got a state-of-the-art rotor system. The engine's computer regulated.
It goes 157 miles an hour, is completely digital, and captured details on the ground from 5 miles away in the sky.
The excitement is we can get in, we can get a news story, we can shoot the pictures, we can get the close-ups, we can get everything we need, and the people on the ground don't even know we're there.
This sort of state-of-the-art technology doesn't come cheap. The Bell 407, fully loaded, comes with a price tag of $2 million, including this $300,000 camera that has revolutionized the way news is covered from the air. Without the close-range abilities of in-the-air news cameras, scenes this, and this would go unnoticed.
Camera technology allows you to fly 2,000 feet above the story and allow to take close-up pictures of read license plates from 2,000 feet.
Cutting-edge capabilities come with certain responsibilities. Every day, Rich answers the question, how close is too close?
There is an invasion of privacy, I do feel at times, with this type of technology. You can be driving your car down the road and I can see who you are. I can't see how fast you're going, but I can definitely make out who you are and what you're doing in your car.
Even in the dark, the Bell 407 reveals what the human eye cannot. Still, no matter how many gizmos fit into a helicopter like this, the best technology can fail, as Rich learned in an earlier model.
And the engine quit, literally quit. Luckily, I was over the highway. I landed on the highway. As soon as I got on the ground, the rotor blades started to slow down, everything started to slow down. I heard a horn of a truck, because I was in the middle of the highway. A horn of a truck, and by the time the rotor blade stopped, the truck went by.
Still, the capabilities of the Bell 407 are keeping pilots and photojournalists safer than ever.
Many years ago, the photographer basically had to sit here. We took the door off, and he held the camera, and he leaned out and shot whatever we needed to shoot, basically leaning outside the aircraft. Whereas now, the camera is mounted on the outside of the aircraft. He operates the camera from this laptop console.
Today, as aircraft become safer, newsrooms can focus more on delivering the best pictures possible with the best technology available. Because it's helicopters like this that bring us the unforgettable, sometimes unshakable images that can only be seen from the sky. In Denver, Alicia Acuna, Fox News.
Well, that's it for us. Hope you enjoyed this Fox in Focus special report. Special thanks to all the pilots and reporters who let us tag along on the rounds. For all of us here at Fox News, I'm Rick Fulbaugh. Thanks for watching.